welcome to the show.
We are here.
Can
welcome
you believe
to the show. We're here.
This has been a long time planning.
Putting together, dreaming, but it's happening.
And we finally are doing it.
We're doing it.
And we're going to start messy.
And imperfect.
Yes.
I guess
and
messy
imperfect.
is imperfect.
Messy is the same thing, but that's okay. But welcome to the show. We're so glad you're here. You're listening. We're excited to see where this takes us, and we're going to be on a journey with you. And our plan is that you'll journey with us, ask good questions. We'll ask good questions, and it's going to be great.
Yep. So if you have no idea who we are, first we'll kind of introduce ourselves, tell a little bit of our story, because this is not my first podcast, but it is our first podcast.
Our first podcast together.
Yes, our first show. If you're watching on YouTube, this is our first show together. So
video brings a whole new
level. I am used to just literally rolling out of bed and letting my ADHD talk into a microphone.
And today I had to do my hair.
Yes, you did. And so here we are doing this messy and imperfect, but we are so excited. So a little bit about us. We are coaches and entrepreneurs. We've been married going on 13 years.
Yeah.
We live in Colorado. We have 2 kids and 2 dogs, and we stay busy chasing said kids and dogs. And
specifically the dog recently.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
Doesn't want to stay in the yard.
No. And so we are entrepreneurs, and we had built our first company. It was something I built, and then Scott came in to help me. And recently in 2024, I realized it was no longer really aligning. Actually, we both realized it wasn't in alignment with where we wanted to go, who we wanted to speak to, the message we wanted to get out in the world. I started to feel very confined by the audience I was speaking to and just talking about business. And so we had built a company to over $20 million in sales. We had 8,000 students that we got to serve. We had the privilege of serving. And if you are one of them listening or watching,
thank you.
Yeah, we love you. We're so thankful for you. And we're excited to serve in this new direction. I also have a book, Pivot to Purpose, and I did a lot of keynote speaking last year. I was gone a lot, and I don't think I'll do that again. That was too much. That was too much for us.
It was a lot. It was a lot. It's a lot of learning, right?
Yeah.
As the business grew, more speaking, more growing. And until you're in that season, you don't really understand when people say, guarding your time and how fast it can actually be taken from you. And so how easy it is to say yes, and understanding like, okay, every yes means a no to something.
Yes.
And so, it's a lot of learning, and through that, I think without a busy season last year, I think there's some pieces that we never would have been aware of or grown into that made us do what we're doing now, which is a pivot.
Yeah, which is funny because that's what my book was called. My first book was called Pivot to Purpose.
The irony is rich.
It is. I think God is up there laughing, being like, ha, did you see that coming? I'd be like, no, not at all. But here we are. I feel like I'm always living with the Friends episode in my head of Ross. Pivot. Only instead of pivoting a couch, we are pivoting literally every facet of our life. And so when we decide to close the doors to that business, not quite sure
what the next
was. We didn't picture this show. We knew we wanted to still serve people. That was always going to be what we both feel we are meant to do in the world, is make an impact and help people. And it's deeply fulfilling. It was just a matter of who and what and why. So a little bit about why this show and about this show and what you can look forward to. Do you want to share a little bit about why the Pursuit of Happywell?
Yeah, the Pursuit of Happywell. Love that. Well, first, I think it's important to know that, as we said, we had a business prior, we served a lot of people. And one of the things that we really saw happening in that business over and over again is we taught business strategy and those types of things. But the thing that really kind of lit us up, the thing that really made our hearts just kind of leap out of our chest, was seeing people's lives change, right? It was seeing people finding breakthrough, people finding better relationships with their kids, with their spouse, with their families, how they existed in the world. All these things were happening over and over and over and over again. And it just was really what was lighting us up. And as we came to the end of 2024, we had a pivot of our own in the sense of man, we're kind of finding ourselves a little out of alignment with what we were doing as a business compared to what was actually lighting us up.
Mhm.
And so we went on a bit of a journey, a lot of reading, a lot of prayer, and we came to a place where we got this idea of Happywell that came out of a book that we read. And that's where this show was born out of. And what this is from, to give a little background, you want to talk a little bit about the Harvard study?
Oh, we're going there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can go. Okay. So the Harvard study it's known as the Grant study, and it's the longest running study on human happiness. It's spanned for over 75 years. And what's amazing is they took, I think, a sample size of like 700 people? Something. It was huge. At first it started with Harvard students, and then they also took people that were not Harvard, so from the streets of Boston, so to speak. And they interviewed, and Harvard does nothing small or by half measure. So they did everything from asking them questions about their psychological well-being. They did blood testing, like checking their physical well-being. And so they found, after following and studying these people for 75 years, and now it's actually the point where they're studying the next generation of the people they originally tested. And they found that the people that were happy and well, they called them Happywell, where they were happy and fulfilled in their life and also physically well, they were healthy, versus those that were sad, sick. And so they noticed that they shared 7 core components that they all had in common, the people that were happy well. And when we came across that study, it aligned so much with what lit us up in that first business. Because what we had was, we were so focused on business strategy. That was the silo that we were in. It was just like, build this, do this, this is how to grow your paycheck, quit the 9-to-5, be an entrepreneur. And that's all well and good. But it's not for everybody.
Right.
Entrepreneurship is not for everybody, but personal growth and a happy, well life is. And I think I felt like the messaging became quite siloed. Like, if you want a happy, well life, quit the 9-to-5, become an entrepreneur. Yeah. And I think that is very flawed messaging, because then I think, okay, what about, the first responders, kindergarten teachers, people who serve in our military? I'm like, if they're never going to be an entrepreneur, can they not have a happy, well life?
Right. And let's be honest, right? Like, being an entrepreneur or being in a role that teachers get this too, but like, it's almost hard to turn off, in the sense that there's no clock in, clock out with an entrepreneur, right? Yeah. A business owner is always concerned about the next, casting vision. Teachers have this too. They take work home, right? So putting, development into just this business owner realm, we really felt like was a disservice to others that could find growth, could find purpose, could level up, in different areas of their life.
Right. Because we had so many people that were like, okay, the things I'm learning are so helpful in my personal life. I really want to share this with so-and-so. Oh, but they're not in this business, or they're not in this industry, or they're not an entrepreneur. And that just kind of wrecked me every time.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is only accessible for entrepreneurs, these tools that are so important, because how we do one thing is how we do everything. And there was a season where, granted, we have, I don't even know how many thousands of testimonials of people that saw measurable results in their business. But I would say, for every one business result we got, we would probably get 3 or 4 life testimonials of how it was impacting someone's life.
Yeah, they didn't want to talk about business.
They didn't want. We had to be like, no, tell us what's going on in your business. We had to kind of sometimes pry it out of them, and they'd be like, my paycheck is up to 20%, but let me tell you what's different in my marriage. But let me tell you about my stress levels. And for a while, I was just like, I can't put this on a sales page that sells business strategy. Yeah. I can't put better your marriage on a business strategy sales page. I can't. Yeah. And so for a while, it became like this, what's the problem here? And then it realized, like, what if that's not a problem? What if that is the goal? What if our students, the people that have been, we've had the deep privilege to serve over the years, what if they were telling us what's important? We were trying to tell them, like, grow your business, do these things, grow your metrics, grow on Instagram. But they were coming back and saying, yeah, but here's what matters. And that was just, and I still I still get testimonials from people that have decided, you know what, entrepreneurship wasn't for me. That business model wasn't for me, but all the tools I learned were.
That's
and
right.
Here's how they still apply in my life. And so towards the end, we started saying to our students in our community, just, hey, we want to talk about things other than your business. And so first we started doing these free calls for our community.
That's right.
And we called it just Life Beyond the Business.
Life Beyond Business. Yep.
Before we even really put a name to Happywell. But that is what we were doing. We were just like, okay, because I like to think of life as a very complex ball of yarn, and everyone that, wants to better their life or better one area of their life, you can't pull out one piece of yarn and say, okay, I'm going to work on my health, or I'm going to, work on my business. Well, every facet of your life touches that thread. So of course, like your boundaries, your identity, how you see yourself, how you interact with your family, how, your marriage, your friendships, your connections, it's all interwoven.
Right.
And so to try and single out this one thread and be like, we're just going to focus in our case on your business, I felt like it was, again, a disservice or too narrow to like, okay, we're just going to help you win in business, but not win at life. Right. What's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah. It's kind of like that saying you hear about kids in school, right? Who maybe aren't getting all three, all the meals in the day. And they're sitting in a classroom and their stomach is growling and they're having a hard time learning, because how hard is it to learn when your stomach is growling? Yeah. Right. And so similar, how we were feeling with our business was like, man, we were teaching them all the strategies. We were giving them the tools. People were finding success, but their lives as a whole were still just not quite there.
Or I will even say, what about the ones that weren't finding success despite having all the tools? That I think segues really nicely into what we're about, is everyone had the same access to the same tools, the same training, the same skills. And what kept me awake at night was, why isn't every person having success despite having access to the tools? And it really narrowed down to the complexity of the human condition. Like, because you can hand the same tool to every person, but every person is going to use the tool differently, or are they empowered to even use the tool based on the stories maybe they've been told? Like, maybe they were told as a kid, you can't use tools. Tools are dangerous. I don't even know. But what we saw was the idea of the hungry child. Like they had access to the same teacher in the same classroom. And so it's almost like the concept of no child left behind. I started to look at no student left behind. I'm like, well, what could be the issue here? And we realized, well, if they're suffering in their personal life, how can we expect them? I mean, some people are wired to run away and be high performers in their business because their life is suffering, but that's a small percentage of the population. Most people are like, how can I show up and do a thing that terrifies me, that feels deeply uncomfortable, when life itself is also deeply uncomfortable? We are creatures that want comfort and security. So of course, like, if my personal life is in total upheaval and I'm not feeling comfort, security, or care, or a sense of self, then why would I go and do something that feels risky and scary to grow a business and maybe put myself out there and subject myself to potentially feeling rejected, misunderstood, when I am already feeling that in my personal life? So it's like, okay, we have to fill their stomach. What is that? We have to care for the whole person.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's good. And that brings up, I think, to the next question on a little bit of why Happywell. I asked you just a couple days ago, as we were, just thinking about this, and as we had been doing some reading, let's been doing some growing, putting some things on paper, trying to get a feeling for where our passions aligned, where we were feeling led. And a question I asked you was, so if you could disrupt or attempt to disrupt any industry out there, what industry would that be? And what did you say?
Yeah. I'm even gonna, before I even give my answer, I'm even gonna, you prefaced it too. You're like, so Sarah Blakely knew she wanted to disrupt the shapewear industry.
Yeah.
And now she's disrupting the shoe industry, which I feel like that's another lesson we could talk about down the road. And our good friend, Tom Patterson, who did Tommy John.
Yeah, that's right. Which I'm wearing right now, by the way. Thank you, Tom.
We'll talk about that some other time. Actually, their story is phenomenal. We'll have to have them on. And so just seeing, it's when you see something where the market is underserved or there's something missing in some way. It's like Sarah Blakely saw an existing market, but saw there were flaws, saw it was underserved or not done to a standard that she wanted. So when I think of industry disruption, it's not how do I set myself against the industry? It is how do I serve it better? Where is the industry being underserved? So from that context, when you asked me that, I said personal development. You said, why? I said, because I believe it is a consumerist economy, and they know it. They know that it is, I think people are, compulsive consumers in the personal development space. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the personal development space. I think it's amazing. I have read phenomenal books and listened to amazing podcasts and thought leaders. But here's the problem is when I noticed, okay, there are people, and we hear it because I've served thousands of students, and we heard it. We heard it in one of our community calls that we were just hearing from people. Someone said, "I just keep thinking behind the next book, the next podcast, the next thing,
next download, whatever.
I'm going to fix myself."
Yeah,
and first of all, my heart I felt so heavy because I'm like, oh. People are approaching personal development from the wrong place of I'm going to fix me, believing that there's something broken about you. And maybe we're all flawed. We're all fallible. We all want to improve ourselves. But going from this, I'm going to fix myself or maybe like myself better is not, I think, the healthiest way to approach personal development, because then you're left to the whim of what your self-esteem is like that day. You have poor self-esteem being like, okay, I'm going to reach for another book instead of like, hold on, maybe I need to learn to reach inward and have different conversations with myself. So what I became increasingly frustrated with is we have this incredibly consumeristic culture around personal development with low implementation. I'm just like, why are people then, why is their life not completely different? And people would say this, I will go and listen to these podcasts, but then nothing about my life is different. And I'll never forget a close friend of mine was like, I just keep thinking maybe next year will look different. I said, it's not going to. Like, stop waiting for life to change. You actually have to step in and be the agent of change in your own life. No podcast, no book, no author, no thought leader. No one's going to do that for you. But I think people keep outsourcing change to the industry, being like, maybe if I just finally listen enough, I'll just wake up different one day. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, one thing we like to do when we talk about using analogy to illustrations, that one is kind of like changing a gym. Going to a different gym every time, expecting a different result.
Oh, are there people that do that?
No, they don't. But what I'm saying,
I'm poking holes in your analogy.
No. What I'm saying though is it would be like that in the sense that you're always buying the next book. It's like a new gym
or a piece of gym equipment.
Yes, right. Like I got the new gym. This is going to be the time it's going to change for me. But at the end of the day, you have to go in there and you have to push the weight. Right? You've got to get on the treadmill. You've got to do the work. And so what we've seen, I think, is we're talking about this consumerism is they consume. They go to every gym. They buy new workout equipment, whatever it is. But the what seems to be the sticking or the blockage or the barrier is never implementing. Yeah. Never putting it into action. And thinking that it's just by reading I'm going to change my life. And it's like, no. What's going to change your life is, yes, some awareness to blind spots and so forth. But what's actually going to change your life is actually implementing those things.
Yeah. Information does not create transformation. Only action does. Implementation is what creates transformation.
Yeah, it's good.
And it's kind of, just to go along with your gym analogy, and I've said this to my students, it's what's exciting here is when you've worked with 8,000 people,
Yeah.
I've literally, I feel like I've
students.
heard it all. I've heard it all, like on all of these coaching things, and it all comes down to implementation between knowing what to do and actually doing it. That is the success gap. That's the gap that every person has to bridge in order to create the results they want in their life. But we have to ask, okay, so why aren't they? Why aren't they taking the action? Why aren't they doing that? It's just like somebody who buys, the treadmill thinking, oh, the shiny treadmill, and it can do an incline of 20 and it can go up to this speed and it has a TV on it and workouts. Time. What?
When I researched our treadmill, I did look for the best specs, the largest TV, the best incline, the fact that it could decline, the speed in which it could go. Can I just tell you that none of that matters if you never get on?
That is my point precisely. I'm like, first of all.
But I researched the crap out of it.
Okay. Have you used the highest incline that the treadmill has done? Because I know you were really big on like the pitch and the incline. I remember this.
Only to see what it felt like, but never after that.
Okay. Do you know who has used the incline? Me. I have. But all this to say, it's people buying the treadmill, getting excited about the treadmill, getting excited about the features, getting excited about, the fancy thing, or the Peloton, the Peloton thing during COVID. Or having like, hey, there's classes on your treadmill, all the bells and whistles. It does not matter if you don't get your butt on the treadmill.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And I'm like, get the $200 walking pad on Amazon, which, by the way, I love and highly recommend. But which is probably killing you. You're like, oh, but it doesn't. All that research I did for that one treadmill. But we're going too far down the treadmill.
Yeah, I don't particularly love that treadmill.
But this is what I see people doing. I see people get caught in the bells and whistles of the personal development space, or even consuming the course, consuming the membership, buying the thing, but not using the thing. And so this is what keeps me awake at night, where I'm like, well, how can we actually get people out of consuming information on how to better their life and actually get on the treadmill or get onto taking action or the implementation that actually creates transformation for a well-lived life.
It's so good.
Thanks.
I think it's going to be a good opportunity for me just to constantly build you up. It's going to be awesome.
Thanks.
But as so that's a good segue in the sense of like, okay, so we're doing this thing. We're starting this show. We're starting a new podcast. It's going to be on podcasts, audio, right? So Spotify and so forth. And then we're also going to jump into YouTube podcasts. And so from there, what's the expectation? What to expect on this week after week? What are we going to do here?
Yeah, we want to have real, meaningful conversations about this hard, complex thing called life and how to navigate being human and doing it well in life. And well in the sense of like tailored to you. What is happy well for me? Happy and well for me and for you, for us, might look different for you. And we want to help people build new metrics in their life. Right. Be like, what? No. Stop getting lost in, because, when you're scrolling on Instagram or Facebook, I can't scroll for longer than a minute before somebody's promising like, make all this money, do all these things, break free from 9 to 5, all this, and everyone's selling you, this should be your metric for a well-lived life. And
without considering your own values.
Considering your own values.
Yeah,
and so
exactly right.
What we're going to be doing is Scott and I, we want to be really careful to not position ourselves as like, we've figured it out. We're the best.
Speak for yourself. I'm pretty sure I figured it out.
We're the gurus here. What we want to be is facilitators of meaningful conversation on this show.
1,000,000%.
And bringing in people who are wiser than us. I know that's hard to believe because I'm quite wise.
Why? Maybe I can't say that. I was going to say something. It's probably going to get bleeped out. So
Okay. But bringing in people that have lived life well according to their own success metrics, people that are making an impact in the world. We're going to be interviewing them, asking them questions that we think you would ask. And we're also going to be tackling some of the big questions that our generation is asking. Even if maybe you're not a millennial watching this, chances are you're going to ask it at some point in your life, or you have asked it at some point in your life. But what we have been looking at is just we're bringing in studies, we're referencing statistics and things you need to know, and talking about life's big questions and having honest conversations about it and being willing to push back. And our hope is that you are willing to just take one small step after each show. That I hope this isn't a show you just consume. You're like, I feel good. Okay, great. Now go live well. Like, go do something with what we shared. We hope that you would go and do something. But at the very least, I hope this feels refreshing for you. That's what I want it to be. I want it to just be real conversation that feels very refreshing, and not I don't know. I don't want people to listen and think my life has to look like theirs or that person's or that guest's, Yeah.
And on that note, we'll, like you said, stats, and we're going to talk about what does happiness mean? What does well mean? And there'll be things that we'll look at and how studies have researched that and put it alongside an opportunity for you to look at your own values and compare that with your own metrics and what you want to desire and to design with your life. Right?
Yeah.
And so some of this is going to be disproving what I think society touts as important.
Yeah.
Touts as in where you should be spending your time, your money, your energy, your focus, how you should be defining your success, your worth. And we'll hopefully be disproving a lot of that, a lot of those assumptions, in order for us to really highlight the things that are going to bring you a fulfilled, happy, well life, what we're calling happy well life.
And when I think about that, when I think about disproving things, I just think that's really going to, not big pharma, but what would we call like big marketing? Like the marketers, like
say that with such
the big marketers, the people who are out to make money off of your need for more. Like
the need for more.
John Mark Comer had said, marketing is just propaganda. And once I read that, I could not unsee it. It's propaganda having you believe that you need more, you must have more. It's behind this next thing. It's to get you to believe something that is not true, to get you to buy things with money that you might not have.
Yeah.
And so, my goodness, if we could just help you reflect, pause, take a second before you are a victim to the propaganda machine of like, this is what a well-lived life looks like. Because look at commercials, look at, how people, they talked about advertising, how advertising has changed so much, and it used to be very functional advertising. Like this, look at this coffee pot. It makes you hot coffee and your drip coffee. And now it's not the function of it anymore. Now it's lifestyle marketing around it and being like, look at this. What does it show you in commercials? It shows you like the family running through like a breezy, well-lit home, and like there's a waterfall trickling outside while someone's like sipping their cup of coffee with their brand new Cadillac in their driveway. And what is the subliminal messaging there?
Cadillac. Okay, hold on. When we talk about commercials.
Or Mercedes, I don't know.
The Subaru commercials, although they haven't been clutch as, well, actually, we don't watch a lot of TV, but I would say a little while ago, I would cry at them all the time.
Yeah, because what is
the promise
Subaru
was about family,
right?
Yeah,
right. And so it's not even about the function of a Subaru being like, look, it gets you from point A to point B safely. Yeah. It's like, if you're a family person, Subaru is the car for the family person. But it's like, going back to the coffee mug, it's just like, okay, have this coffee cup and like you can see yourself, this is what affluent people have. And if you have this, then you can see yourself as this. And so once you kind of learn to pause and take inventory and actually go back to what is my happy well? What are my life metrics? Hold on here. You will be less swayed by the notion of false promises or all the bells and whistles that actually don't lead to a happy, well life. It leads to a noisy, distracted, exhausting life.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that we'll try and talk about on this, right?
Yes.
It's easy for us to say from afar.
Yeah. We're going to dive
We're going to dive a little more into that.
deep into it. So here's the thing. If you are listening, do us a favor. Subscribe, give us a follow. Please leave, if you're listening on podcast audio, please leave us a rating with a review. This is a brand new show, so we want to get the word out. We want more people to live, to join us in the pursuit of a happy, well life. We want to invite you into that. So please share with your friends, share with your family.
Yeah, and if you're on YouTube, this is new for us. So you can hit the like button, you can subscribe.
Leave comments.
Hit the little bell and leave some comments. Maybe there's some things that you want to talk about. If you want to talk about, we might, I don't know. I don't know what you do on the commenting thread on YouTube.
You are always on YouTube. How do you not know what to do in the commenting thread? You are the YouTuber of YouTubes.
I YouTube the DIY. I'm a DIY YouTuber.
But yeah, people
but comment.
Yeah.
And we'd love to carry that conversation on in the comments on YouTube. So we're excited for it. We hope you'll join us in this and be on a journey of redefining your metrics for a happy, well life. And hopefully we can help provide some helpful insights and direction as you do that.
And we will see you in the next episode.